We have Mr. Shashank Srivastav today, Senior Executive Director, Marketing and Sales, Maruti Suzuki India. Thank you so much for taking the time out, sir. We know
Thank you.
exciting times are up ahead. The new Baleno is anticipatedly waited. But before we get into the Baleno, let's talk a bit about Nexa itself, the brand.
Yeah.
What are the core values of Nexa that has actually helped Maruti as a whole?
So, as you can see in the background, actually, these are the two words: create and inspire. So, these are the two defining values of Nexa. And of course, this is possible because of the other values which are attached to it, to creation and inspiration, which is being global, being innovative, being exciting, and being tech driven. So I think these are the values which have made Nexa what it is today. It is today a very aspirational, it gives a very aspirational buying experience to the Indian auto consumer. And that has made it, that is the basic reason for its being so successful. Nexa, by the way, if it was a individual brand or OEM, it would have been number 3 in the industry behind Maruti Suzuki and Hyundai.
Sir, also now talking about the Baleno, ever since it was
Yeah.
launched, it has propelled Nexa to the next level, and it has been a leader in the premium segment hatchback. Now, how do you think the new Baleno will revolutionize the segment? I mean, you already have the bestseller. How do you make a perfect product better?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, Baleno has been very crucial to the success of Nexa overall, and of course to Maruti Suzuki as well. Launched in October 2015, it crossed the 1 million mark in 2021. 6 years' time, it crossed the 1 million mark. It's the fastest in the Indian auto industry ever. Is the Baleno crossing the 1 million mark. So the next question is obviously becomes even more pertinent. So if it is so successful, why have a new Baleno? Or what can you do with the Baleno to make it even better? Well, I think the Indian consumer is evolving, and as economy is developing and consumer criteria of buying cars is also changing, the preferences are changing. Demographically, the consumer is changing. So our research showed that the new Baleno buyer is a lot younger, and also has an inclination for tech-driven features, and which is why we have added a host of new features which are driven by tech in the Baleno to make it the all-new Baleno. And in fact, our tagline, which we talked about boldness alone in the previous editions, is now talking of that tech goes bold. So that is the new tagline. Tech goes bold, and that indicates what exactly the product new Baleno is.
But there's more to just product, right, with the Baleno, because the Baleno will also introduce a new design philosophy for Nexa. Could you tell us a bit about that, and what was the thinking behind it?
Yeah, so the new design language, as you rightly said, is crafted futurism. So crafted futurism actually incorporates the next generation thinking, which is what we call based on 3 pillars. One is called Nexpression, which is a philosophy that guides the design, the signature elements like the headlamp, etc. The headlamp, for example, or the new grille, or the DRL, the alloys. These are all come under the design element driven by the philosophy Nexpression. Then is Next Tech. Next Tech is technology that create the wow factor. So these are very advanced features which are catering to the new aspirational Indian consumer. And third is Nexperience, which is about the experience of driving the Nexa car. And in fact, even buying the Nexa car is experience in itself. That is the basic ethos of the Nexa brand. All that is what is the philosophy which you can see in the new Baleno.
Right. And so, as figures have regularly showed that hatchbacks continue to be the most popular segment,
Yeah.
What are your expectations of this premium hatchback segment?
So the premium hatchback segment, Arup, has been relatively, I mean, it's very strong. It's about 22-23% of the overall industry market for the last 5-6 years. So although people talk about the rise of the SUV, which they have, but it is essentially at the cost of the sedans. The premium hatchback segment has remained remarkably large at about 22-23% of the overall industry. In fact, in the last financial year, it was also the largest segment in the among all segments in the industry. So the premium hatch segment is quite big. Baleno is roughly about 25-27% of the total market of premium hatch, and it along with Swift give Maruti Suzuki almost a 60% market share. So in that sense, it's a very important segment for us, and we do anticipate that with the new Baleno, we would be able to further strengthen our position in the segment.
And no doubt there, sir. But sir, just coming back to the Nexa brand, we all know how pandemic had affected everyone, and Nexa was, if not the first brand to bring out world-class customer service and dealership service. How did the brand evolve during those challenging times?
Yeah, so I think another great question, Arup, because in times when we had the lockdown because of the COVID, the first lockdown, which was like really complete lockdown, you really had to communicate with the consumers to keep that connect going. Yet at the same time, because of these circumstances, you couldn't really have talked too much about your product or your push for sales for the product. And therefore, I think one very positive thing which happened was that when we realized this and we knew that trust was the new currency of brand differentiation, we focused on building trust, not only for Nexa, but overall for Maruti Suzuki as well. And that trust factor, I think, strengthened dramatically during these last 2 years, thanks to our very good communication, which was very empathy. It was full of that empathy. So it was an empathic communication that we did, and the consumers really liked it. Our ratings and the mind share for Baleno therefore climbed up in the last 2 years of the pandemic.
Sir, a lot has been talked about Baleno being extremely high tech, but there's a lot of thinking behind it, being in terms of being practical.
Yeah.
And also with Connect features, data privacy is another thing that is concerned by a lot of people. So how has the company been handling this?
Yeah, so obviously, when we say that consumers are preferring tech-driven features, we also do research on what features that they would like. And one of the big things that they indicated were such features as the HUD display, for example, which adds also to the overall safety of the vehicle. So the HUD display is Baleno is the only car in this category which has the HUD, which is not only a high-tech features, but it's a very practical feature for safety. So it's a very safety-driven feature as well. You also saw some of the features which we have released to the general public about the new Baleno, the most modern infotainment system which comes with it, which is also like voice control and so on and so forth. So that's also very, very tech driven, and it's very practical because these days most of the people would like to do a lot of things with the smartphone. That has got to do with the great penetration of smartphones in our country, which has enabled us to make this technology practical for the car user. Third, which we have also indicated, is the 360-degree camera, which is sort of a safety feature, but is also a very practical when it comes to parking of cars in tight areas, maneuverability, etc., etc. Those are also something which are extremely practical. There are a host of other features which we will reveal closer to the date of the launch, which is expected very shortly. So you'll have to wait for that. But the point is that all the features which we have put in the new Baleno, as also in all our vehicles, actually are driven by practicality rather than just pure show or pure optics. So that is something which we take pride in. It's if tech-driven features should have a practical value to the consumers, and the all-new Baleno you will see has exactly that philosophy in mind.
So just one last question. So what now can we expect from the Nexa brand in terms of the future?
So Nexa, of course, it was introduced in 2015, and as I said, very successful brand with a great win-back ratio, about 43-44%, which means we are taking consumers making choices for the Nexa from the competition. So as the market is evolving and as the consumers become more aspirational, we need to obviously continue to evolve the Nexa brand. So Nexa itself would now have elements which we are discussing, how to bring it to the next level. You can say Nexa 2.0 level. So it's an ongoing process of evolution from the consumer side, and therefore looking at that evolution on the brand side as well. And on the second part, which is about the Nexa, the vehicles or the brands which are within the Nexa portfolio, we are seeking to increase the number of brands in that under the Nexa portfolio. So that should also give a further push in terms of the overall sales for Nexa, which should increase dramatically.
And that's a very important thing that you've just told us, additional brands coming in. Thank you so much for your time. And we can't wait to find out what the Baleno is all about, because we are 100% sure you've kept a lot of secrets still. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Arul. Thank you. It was so nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
Pleasure, sir.